Welcome to the Core Happiness Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Banks, a mindset and positive psychology coach. On this podcast, we discuss all things related to creating happiness from within. So, let's do it. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Casey Banks. As you know, on this podcast, we always talk about things that can create happiness from within, and today's no different. So I want to talk about something we all do, which technically, if we did better, would change the way we connect with people, would change the way that we are understood. And that's mindful communication. I'm going to start by asking you this question, and just think about it for a second. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and thought, that did not go at all how I thought that was going to go? Or I don't think they understood what I was saying. Or worse, like, I don't even think they were listening to me. They were nodding, but I don't think they were listening to me. I think that this is very common. I know in coaching, the topic has come up a lot where people are like, I don't know how to communicate with my boss. Or I talk in my meetings, but my team just doesn't seem to understand me. Well, is it me? What am I doing wrong? Or let's say you're at home and you're trying to talk to your family member or your spouse, and you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm communicating effectively and they just aren't getting it. Like, I feel so misunderstood. I don't even feel heard. I think that there are ways that we can learn how to communicate clearly and confidently and make sure that what we're communicating makes an impact. So let's get into it. Mindful communication really truly is just being mindful and present while you're communicating. It's listening with intention, it's speaking with clarity, it's responding thoughtfully instead of just reacting to an impulse while the other person is speaking. And I know you're probably thinking, yeah, no, that's a no-brainer. I think everybody knows that. But the thing is, when we're actually in those moments, a lot of times, we don't know that. We just don't react that way, which is why we have to be more mindful of it. So here's the cool thing, and I always geek out on the science, I know, bear with me, but neuroscience really does back this up. So when we communicate mindfully, when we are actually engaged and present, our brain's prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that is responsible for decision-making, reasoning, that type of stuff, it's like more logical, right? It stays in control and engaged. But when we are emotional and our amygdala kicks in, which is the emotional fight or flight center of our brain, that's when communication tends to spiral into misunderstandings or into miscommunication so quickly. So just keep this in mind, because when you are mindful and you have that prefrontal cortex engaged, you actually stay in the driver's seat of your communication instead of like letting emotions take over. Going deeper into this, I'm sure people have heard of the power of active listening, where you're not just listening to what the person is saying, but you are listening to understand. So you're not listening so you can respond. You're actually listening to understand. And here's a fun fact about that, because this is a true stat, okay? Most people only remember about 25% of what they hear in a conversation. Most people only remember about 25% of what they hear in a conversation. That means that most of the time we miss a huge chunk of what's being said, regardless of who's talking to us. So how do we fix this? A couple of techniques that I came across that I think have been pretty helpful, at least within coaching, is really try to give your full attention. That means putting the phone down. That means sliding the phone away. That means making eye contact. That means really being there. Because when you're able to put the phone away, you make eye contact, you're really communicating through your body language. I care what you are saying. I am here. I am present with you. I care about what you're saying to me. I'm engaged and I'm listening to you. I hear you. We say all that with our body language, believe it or not. The other part is make sure that you're using reflective listening. So in addition to making sure that your body language is saying, yes, I'm here, I'm listening, make sure that you are paraphrasing. Make sure that you're responding in kind to what is being said to you. One effective way to do this is, especially if it's like somebody's being emotional or if it's very important to them and you can tell that it's something that they are emotional to tell you, or maybe they're stressed about something, maybe it's something causing them anxiety, you can say, so what I'm hearing is you feel overwhelmed right now, right? Or you feel that this is unfair, right? But paraphrase back to them so that they can say, yeah, or, well, it's not that, but, and it helps take the conversation into the next level. It helps take things a little bit deeper, which actually makes them respond better to you. And it actually truly, the more you do this, the more you actually create a bond with that person. That is actually also scientifically a fact. So that's an added bonus though. But just make sure that you are paraphrasing and make sure that you are truly listening to understand. And then before you even respond, take a beat, take a moment. How many of us, when we're listening to someone, we are like, oh, and you want to jump in right at that moment. You almost want to be like, sorry to interrupt, but don't do it. That's one of the worst things you don't interrupt anyone. I think one of the things that we can do is just pause, take a beat, and then respond. Those extra 2 seconds can truly make such a huge difference when we're being mindful versus just autopilot and blurting stuff out. Just try it, because I think you'll understand it's truly wild how much deeper our conversations can go when you start listening, one, for understanding, and then two, when the person that you are listening to genuinely feels heard. So going back quickly to the body language, because I think a lot of people truly don't understand the large impacts of body language when it comes to communication. So here's another stat, which I thought was super interesting. Did you know that words are only 7% of communication? 7% of communication. The rest is your tone, your body language, your facial expressions. There was a research that was done by UCLA, and it showed that 38% of communication comes from the tone, and 55% comes from nonverbal cues. So if you're talking to me and I'm like, yeah, that sounds great, cool, I'm not giving you eye contact, that's a nonverbal cue, right? If you're talking to me and I'm doing this, fidgeting, that's a nonverbal cue. And then again, it also comes to tone. If you're speaking with a high tone and you're yelling, most people shut down. They go defensive. They don't respond in that way. So your tone of voice, the cadence of your voice sometimes even can set the tone of a conversation. And if your tone and your body language doesn't match, the message can also get lost. I know it sounds like, wow, that's a lot to think of when you're just trying to communicate with somebody. But it's not. It really just truly breaks down into your tone matters. When you are engaging with anyone, especially when you want to be heard and understood, it should always just be a warm, steady tone, something that builds trust, nothing sharp. Like if you were yelling at a child or if you were trying to discipline in some way, that usually is sharp. It's usually rushed. But again, that creates tension. So a lot of times, especially even when you're disciplining, if you're disciplining a child, once you get their attention, it might have to be sharp. But then once you are engaged and you want them to truly listen and understand and take in the words, the tone might need to shift. It might need to be something a little bit more warm. And then again, body language. So uncross the arms, turn towards the person, give eye contact, just show that you are engaged. And then I don't know if you've heard about mirroring, but mirroring is really just matching the other person. And not in terms of like, not a miming, but mirroring is matching a person's energy. So if you want to like create a gesture or an instant of connection, you could be like, if they are excited, you're excited. If they're down, you're down. And it also creates a safe space for the other person. And it creates a safe space for you. I mean, put yourself in the other way. If somebody's mirroring your energy back to you and you're trying to communicate something, you instantly feel safe. You're like, oh, I feel like I can open up to you. I feel like I can be genuine. And then that feeling of comfortable where we are open and safe and maybe I can be a little vulnerable here, maybe, is also what helps to create really strong connections. So we've talked about listening. We've talked about communicating. But let's say you're at work and you're trying to talk to your boss or you're talking to a coworker or something, and you really want to make sure that you are communicating clearly and effectively, how do you do it? So the first thing is just make sure that your words are landing the way that you want them. And you've probably heard this. I think this even comes back from grade school. But instead of saying you, try I. So instead of putting it on a person, take it. So instead of saying, you never listen to me, you could say, I really feel unheard when this happens. This makes sure that the other person doesn't go immediately into the defensive, shut down, and then are just not listening to a word you say beyond you, blah, 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 because they're not listening. The other thing is, again, we only retain a small amount of what we hear. So make sure it's concise. How many people do you know that can draw on and you're like, wait, what's the point? Right? So make sure that you are being clear. Make sure that the information is structured in a way that is to the point, it's concise, and instead of overloading with unnecessary details, just get straight to the point. And then again, this is also where tone comes in, because I know a lot of people, especially in the workplace, are just trying to get to the point. They're trying to be succinct, they're trying to be efficient. And if their tone is off, it just comes across like they're just jabbing at you. Like, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, whoa, that's intense. So make sure, again, that you're being warm. You can be warm, get to the point, be succinct. And then the other thing is manage your emotional triggers. So if you ever feel like you yourself are getting defensive, which will happen, right? But if you feel like you're getting defensive, pause, take that beat, breathe, deep breaths, get that vagus nerve going, activate that parasympathetic nervous system, which literally helps you calm down. And then remind yourself, I don't need to be emotional here. And then respond or ask questions. Another way to communicate confidently, and this is actually something that a lot of people don't do because it seems counterintuitive, but it's not. If you ask questions like, what are your thoughts on that? Or I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Did you mean blah, 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 blah? But asking questions actually creates space for a real conversation. A lot of people think that asking questions means that you are not smart, you're not engaged. Like they're like, oh, I don't want to seem stupid. It's actually the opposite. When you ask questions, you are showing that you're engaged. You're showing that you actually care about this conversation. And that allows the conversation to have space. So instead of a yes or no question, you're actually engaging. So we talked about work. I know I mentioned before about being at home, maybe a spouse or your child. So let's talk about like bringing this all together. How does it look when we bring this all together and actually try to use it in everyday life? So again, these are simple shifts. Don't think about it as super big and overwhelming. So before you start an important conversation, take deep breaths, center yourself, and then go. Also, when someone's talking, repeat what they're saying to yourself silently in your mind so you can really retain what they're saying before you respond. Also, before responding, especially if you're going to respond in disagreement, ask yourself, am I speaking to express or defend? Because if you're coming from a place of defense, really think about that and think about how you can reframe it to express your feelings versus defend yourself. That's a big one. So just remember, mindful communication is not about being perfect. It's just about being present. Just be present, because the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. I know it sounds like a lot, but I promise if you try this, you'll notice that you are having more meaningful conversations. You are having deeper relationships with people. Your misunderstandings are scarce to none. And I'm going to do a new thing now where in these segments, I'm going to just do a challenge for all of us. Pick one mindful communication skill that we shared in this episode, whether it's pausing before you respond or listening with intention or creating small shifts just in your body language, whatever it is, pick one and try it and just see how it feels. And if you found today's episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who could use it also. And I'd always love to hear your thoughts. So please message me and let me know how mindful communication is showing up in your life. Until next time, keep showing up with intention and leading with clarity. As always, if it comes from a place of love, it'll be best received. That's all we have for today. I encourage you to tune in next time because we are having a special guest on, Dr. Lewis, who goes into how storytelling has been proven to deepen connections. You don't want to miss it. I thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to rate it or leave a review. If you have any thoughts or questions, I would love to hear from you. You can email podcast@corehappiness.com. For show notes and additional resources, you can visit www.corehappiness.com. As always, please remember, never let anyone diminish your light. Until next time, sending you my love.